Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a two-player turn-based game, meaning that both players get to take turns making plays. First one player goes, then the other player goes. Repeat the process until somebody wins. This video will be going over how a turn in a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Works. I'm Fairy Tale Luna, and I'm doing this instead of looking for a job. This is Yugiology. The turn structure of the game is kinda complicated. Each turn is divided up into 6 phases: the draw phase, the standby phase, the main phase, the battle phase, the main phase 2, and the end phase. Let's go over each of these phases. The draw phase occurs at the beginning of the turn. During this phase, the turn player draws one card from the top of their deck and places it in their hand. Each player begins the game with a hand of 5 cards. The standby phase is less simple. There are certain cards whose effects activate during the standby phase, and you can also use this phase to activate trap cards or quick play spell cards. If a card's effect doesn't specifically mention the standby phase, then this phase is completely optional. The main phase is when most of the action happens. During this phase, the turn player can summon monsters, activate cards and effects, set spells and traps, or change their monsters' battle positions. The battle phase is self-explanatory. It's the phase when battle occurs. Let's go over how a battle works. Take note of the attack and defense points of the monsters on the field. These are very important during the battle phase. The battle phase itself is divided into 4 steps: the start step, the battle step, the damage step, and the end step. The start step is the beginning of the battle phase. This happens when you declare that you're entering the battle phase. The battle step happens when a monster is attacking. Take one of your monsters and use it to declare an attack against your opponent. If your opponent controls no monsters, you can use your monster to attack them directly. If they do control a monster, you must use your monster to attack that monster. The damage step happens during battle between 2 monsters, or between your monster and your opponent. Here's how damage calculation works. Each player starts off with 8,000 life points. The first player whose life points hit 0 loses. During battle between 2 attack position monsters, the monster with the lowest attack is sent to the graveyard, and the player who controlled that monster loses life points equal to the difference between the 2 monsters' attack points. If you use a monster to attack your opponent directly, your opponent loses life points equal to your monster's attack points. If 2 attack position monsters with the same amount of attack battle each other, those monsters both go to the graveyard, but neither player loses life points. What about defense position monsters? If an attack position monster attacks a defense position monster, and that defense position monster's defense points are lower than the attacking monster's attack points, the defense position monster goes to the graveyard, but neither player loses life points. If the defending monster's defense is higher than the attacking monster's attack, the player who controlled the attacking monster loses life points equal to the difference, but neither monster goes to the graveyard. If the defending monster's defense is equal to the attacking monster's attack, nothing happens. If a monster is in attack position, apply its attack points, and if it's in defense position, its defense points are applied instead. A monster can only attack if it's in attack position. Defense position monsters cannot attack. And each monster can only attack once per turn. After damage calculation ends, the damage step is over, and the battle step can start again. The end step happens when the battle phase is over. After the battle phase is over, you can move on to the main phase 2. This phase is exactly the same as the first main phase. During this phase, you can summon your monsters, use your spell and trap cards, or change the battle positions of your monsters. A couple things about battle positions though. You cannot change the battle position of a monster that declared an attack this turn. And you can only change the battle position of each of your monsters once per turn. When your turn is over, you enter your end phase. It is now your opponent's turn, and the cycle continues. It's important to note that the player who goes first does not get to conduct their battle phase or their draw phase during their first turn, only the main phase 1 and the end phase. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. I'm Fairy Tale Luna. Goodbye.